G'day guys and welcome to the RacingBet preview ahead of day one of the championships in Sydney on Saturday the 10th of April. I'm your host Tim Geers, joined by Trent Crebbin, and we are going to go through the 4 group runs at Royal Randwick this Saturday, those being the Size Produce Stakes, the Australian Derby, the TJ Smith Stakes, and of course the Group 1 Doncaster Mile over at Randwick. We're also going to preview the Caulfield card in Melbourne. Trent will take us through his best bets of the day there. And then we'll shift over to Sydney, have a good look at the Group 1s and go through my best bets of the day over in Sydney. So, Trent, how's things over there in Melbourne?
Yeah, good. Kind of a nice little card at Caulfield just to complement the championships, which we've got some great races in Sydney. The Group 1s are all fantastic, and we'll be looking forward to taking you through those.
I'm stuck here in sunny Launceston. It was probably a cool 8 or 9 degrees this morning. A little bit different to being over in Perth, so forgive me for a slightly different show this week, probably largely unedited, and we'll do our best. We're just trying to get it done the best way we can, but we'll do our best to find you the winners as always, and look forward to a huge stage racing on Saturday. So we'll start over with you at Caulfield, Trent, and take us through your best bets of the day. Your best comes up in race number 6. You're with horse number 1. I think this is the feature race on the card. Horse number 1, Liquero, currently $1.95.
Yeah, Liquero in race 6, which is the Galilei Series final for 3-year-old stayers over the 1.5 miles. I thought Liquero was going to be really hard to beat here. Comes out of the St. Ledger trial at Bendigo over 2,200 metres. He won that race, was given a great ride there, held off Explosive Jack, and they put a gap on the rest of them there. I think this field is quite a bit easier than what he faced there. Has to carry top weight, but it's only conceding a couple of kilos to the field. And he's, the other horses in the market here, he was beating them by 7 or 8 lengths last start, and it's really hard to see anything turning the tables on Liquero here. Add to the fact he was 16 up to 2,200 there, so I think he's probably got improvement to come. And I just can't really see what beats in here. He's already started to be backed in from even money a bit. I think he'll probably start $1.60, and I think he'll win. Simple as that.
Fair enough. Sounds good enough to me. We'll shift over to your best value bet of the day. Comes up in the race straight after that. Race number 7 on the card. You're with horse number 2, Blenheim Palace, currently $18.
Yeah, I thought Blenheim Palace could run a good race here at around that $18 quote. He was kind of ticking along nicely over a couple of 2,000 metre runs at Caulfield, 2 back, where he was only about 2 lengths off Defibrillate, which is strong form. And then last start on All-Star Mile Day, over the 2040, he just had to work way too hard. He kind of got stuck outside the leader, then something else kicked up inside him, and he kind of had to sit 3 wide for a bit, then outside them, and everything on speed kind of dropped off. And that race won by Persan, which again is strong form. I thought he kind of battled onto the line okay there. Finally gets up to 2,400 metres, which is definitely going to suit off his UK form. Draws barrier 4. I think he can go forward and control this race, and I think he just gets a really nice map up to the 2,400, and I thought he could stick on for quite a while here and get them chasing. So $18, I thought he was a good chance.
Very good. And you just have to forgive us if our internet connection is a little bit unstable. I'm stuck in not a Blenheim Palace, but we're stuck in a caravan park here in Launceston. We had a bushfire above us about 100 metres up the day we arrived. So it's all happening over here. We're not exactly in ideal conditions, but doing our best. Let's take a look at Sydney. Of course, day 1 of the championships, day 2 coming up next weekend, but it's been shifted back a week. Comes up this weekend. 4 Group 1s on the card. The ATC Size Produce, the Australian Derby, TJ Smith, and we round things out with the Donny. Probably the 5th biggest race. There's the big 4, and then there's the Doncaster probably coming in at number 5. Trent, you've done a lot of form on the Group 1s, potentially even more than me this time around. What are your thoughts on the 4 Group 1s? Are you confident in finding winners, or pretty tough overall?
The Doncaster's always tough. I think probably that'll be just specking a couple there. But the Size Produce, the Derby, and the TJ, I'm fairly confident. It looks kind of straightforward, to be honest. I think you can pen a few there, and I think we could probably find a result with a couple of favoured horses there.
What do we think the track's going to do? Currently rated a heavy 8. I suspect it'll probably stay in that range.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Without being all over the Sydney tracks. I think it's supposed to be fairly warm today. On Friday, of course, that is. And then Saturday, I think there's only a mil or 2 predicted. So it wouldn't shock me to get into this softer range. I think, or is he still want to be able to handle the wet tracks? But I think a soft 6, maybe a 7 probably wouldn't be out of the question.
All right, we'll get straight into the first Group 1 on the card because coincidentally, it's also my best bet on the card. This is the ATC size produce over 1,400 metres for the 2-year-olds. My best is horse number 1, Animo, for the Godolphin team. James McDonald is booked to ride. This horse is just an absolute beast. If he turns up in the same kind of form he showed in the Golden Slipper, I think he'd be very tough to beat here. Arguably, with changes runs a little bit, and he arguably could have won both the Diamond and the Golden Slipper. Of course, he was carded via the hot dog stand in Melbourne in the Blue Diamond, had to come from a different postcode, and then pretty similar story in the Golden Slipper, came from well back in the field. Stay inside was dominant, but the horse that caught everyone's eye in that process was Animo. As I said, jockey changed today, barrier 5. I reckon they may try and sit a little bit closer if they can without kind of taking him away from his racing pattern. And to my eye, as I said, I know we're kind of deep into a preparation and this is potentially his 3rd grand final they've had him ready for. But if he shows, turns up in the same kind of vein of form that he has been in recent starts, I struggle to see him getting beat here. $1.90, what did you think?
Yeah, definitely agree. He just keeps putting in big runs from horrible spots where he just gets too far back from the barriers. Really, that Blue Diamond was sickening to watch. Adams Valley bit of the day there. And again, in the Golden Slipper, a huge run again, 1,400 meters. He looks like he's crying out for 1,400 meters, really. And it just depends on whether he's, like you said, won too many runs. But like you said, you can't really know that until maybe you saw him in the mounting yard or after the race. So you've just got to take on trust that he's, still fit and firing. And if he is, I think he'll just win.
Okay, we'll move on to the next Group 1. This is the Australian Derby, and a bit of a fascinating race this year because the favourite is a filly in the form of Montefilia. Can she beat the boys? The history says it's going to be very tough for her. Only one filly in the last 20 years has won this race. Can she defeat the boys this year, or will history repeat itself?
I definitely think she can beat the boys. Your two form lines going into this. You got the Rosehill Guineas and the Tulloch Stakes last week, which I think has provided the last 5 winners on the quick backup, which is interesting. But yeah, going back to the Rosehill Guineas, the Montefilia, I thought she was a huge run there. Came from almost last, ran 3rd, beaten a length by Moanga. She was 1,400 up to 2,000 that day. Gets to the 2,400. I think she maps quite well here from barrier 4. So I think she's a leading chance, if not the horse to beat. And yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all to see her give the boys a bit of a touch up here.
Okay, I'm going to lean away from her. Found it pretty tricky to kind of land on one in particular, but I'm going to back up again on the Kiwis. We've seen in years gone past, the New Zealand form has been very strong for this race. I understand there's definitely a query over this year's Derby form. We've seen both Milford and then last week the front man both fail. They obviously placed in the New Zealand Derby before coming to Australia and both failed in their first runs here. I'm going to stick with Rocket Spade, who did win the New Zealand Derby, and this is his first run in Australia since then. Double figure odds is good enough for me. Barrier 2, Karen McAvoy from the right stable and gets a soft track, which he should be able, should handle just fine. He's had 6 starts on soft ground for 4 wins and a 2nd placing. So I'm going to stick with him. I'm also going to back up on the front man who I was with and pretty confident with last weekend in the Tulloch Stakes, as you referenced. He was disappointing there. I thought he actually travelled into the race really well. And then when the gap kind of presented itself, or he was able to shove out at about the 300, he did absolutely nothing. But with $31 on offer, given he started $5.50 last weekend, and this is a stable that has a very good record in both the Tulloch and the Derby over here, I'm going to give him another chance. Hugh Bowman sticks with him. Interesting that last weekend was his first run on a good surface. His 3 runs in New Zealand had all been, his 4 runs in New Zealand had all been on soft ground. So he's going to get a much wetter track than he faced last week. As you said, on the quick backup, he was 3 weeks between runs on that occasion. I'm going to give him another chance here with, 6 times the price as what he was in the Tulloch Stakes last weekend. And that's probably the way I'll go. I'll probably keep it just like that. I'm going to take on Montefilia. I admit and do concede that she is the one to beat, but just with that, how big I am on history and trends and patterns, and I just don't want to get involved at that price with, that kind of record against her with fillies in this race. Chances can be made for the likes of Lions Raw and Skylab. Any other thoughts on the Derby?
No, I think I'll be sticking with Montefilia. Probably having something small, young Werther, who I think Gets the blinkers on first time, was a good run last week. And potentially something on Quay. I thought he stuck on quite well in the Rosehill Guineas. 2 from 2, third up, draws well here. So that's probably how I'll be playing the race, but I wouldn't talk you out of quite a few of these.
All right, the third Group 1 of the day is the TJ Smith Stakes 1200 metres for the sprinters. Why is Nature Strip, and I'm going to let you argue this because I know you're in his camp and you're a fanboy, why is Nature Strip shorter than Eduardo here?
I think he's a better horse than Eduardo, especially at 1200 metres. I think he's proven himself at 1200 metres. He won this race last year, third up. Very similar setup here. And I think, I just think he's going to win this, to be honest. I think he's going to reclaim the mantelpiece as the world's best sprinter that Joe Pride has kind of tried to take off him with Eduardo. And I think he's going to lead all the way here. And the real Nature Strip is going to turn up here. And I think it's going to be a big performance.
Fair enough. 4 out of 6 when third up from a spell, undefeated on heavy ground. From barrier 5, probably kicks through to lead. Easy to make a case there. I'm actually going to stick with Eduardo. I thought he beat Nature Strip clearly on his merits first up, and that was over 1,000. And the strongest horse at the end of the race was undoubtedly Eduardo. If that wasn't enough, he then came out and absolutely spanked his opposition in the Galaxy, carrying top the weight, no less. I think he's returned an absolutely supreme order this preparation. Third up, no worries. Probably comes across and sits outside Nature Strip potentially. And he's had 6 starts on wet tracks for 5 wins. So I think there's a lot to like about him. Love the way he's come back. And at the prices, I'd rather be with Eduardo. Take your point that Nature Strip is probably the better horse. But I'm just going to back him to probably upset the favourite once again. Take me through your thoughts on Bivouac, who's currently a $4.20 chance, not far behind those two. In fact, he's $4.20, whereas Eduardo's $4.40. Will we see the best of him on a heavy track?
Yeah, heavy track would be the worries. You'd probably want to wait a little bit. If it gets into the soft kind of 6 range, I think he's probably can handle it fine. I thought he was probably, I've got this as a race in 2. I think only Nature Strip and Bivouac are good enough to win this. If it's dry enough for Bivouac, he'll give it a shake. If it's too wet, Nature Strip will win. So I kind of took the early price Bivouac, but the rain is a bit of a question mark. I think he's kind of just been obviously targeted this race like a few of them, but I just don't think he's had things go his way. First up 1,000 meters, probably not his go. Was really well backed there against Nature Strip as well. And then second up in the Canterbury, he was up to 1,300 meters, got racing wide, kind of over raced a bit here. And you see he's kind of his best runs, Bivouac, is when he can really just get cover and stalk the speed rather than make those big runs out wide. And I think he maps to do that here from barrier 2. He's just going to be settling in behind the speed. He'll have enough time to get out. And I think he's going to be the one, if Nature Strip and Eduardo overdo it, he's going to be the one there to pounce. And yeah, I think one of the two will win. You could probably back both.
I'm going to make a little case for one at $41 here. It's horse number 6, Dirty Work. I'll be having something on. Arguably should have won the Oakley Plate first up from a spell, and he was beaten 6 lengths by Eduardo last start. But if you go back and watch the replay, he definitely should have finished a lot closer. I think I mentioned this in my review piece after this race, that he was one of the horses out of the meetings to follow. Whether he's up to this class of horse is the obvious issue, but I think his 2 runs this time in without any luck whatsoever have been fantastic. Damien Lane goes on. Interestingly, Tommy Berry jumps off both the Hawks horses to ride Libertini. Surely she's no hope on a heavy track, I would have thought. But yeah, $41, I think you could do worse, and there's worse chances in the race than Dirty Work. Final Group 1 on the card, the Doncaster Mile, race number 9. My best value bet, and I'm probably going to be backing about 4 in this race, as you tend to do in a Donny. I'll tell you the 4 I'm interested in, Trent. First of all, horse number 1, Mugger 2, would be backing him just as the saver bet. Number 2, your mate, Avilius. I can't remember the last time I backed Avilius, but I'm going to back him today at $14. Horse number 9, Aegon, the Kiwi, who of course failed in the Randwick Guineas last start. I think he's better than that. And the key today is the wet track. You know, leading into that Randwick Guineas, he was 5 from 5 on soft ground. He's going to get conditions to suit. Of course, bred by Sacred Falls out of a Zabeel mare. He's going to relish the conditions here. So definitely something on him at double figure odds. And I think the blowout in the race, and my best value bet of the day, is going to be horse number 17, Natoya. She won this race last year. She's had 2 blowouts to kind of, blow the cobwebs out, 2 runs back from a spell. Her third up record is terrific. 7 starts, 3 wins, 2 minor placings. She won this race third up from a spell last year. And that was also on a heavy 8 track where she carried 51.5 kilos. Carries 51 kilos this time around. So carrying less weight than she did last year. $71 good enough for me. Take me through your thoughts in the Donny.
Yeah, I found this very tough. Could definitely come with you, Avilius, if the track stays in the very wet range, top 7, heavy 8 range. I think he definitely should have won the George Rider last week or 2 weeks ago. That was sickening.
Not for me.
I agree with you, Aegon. I think Aegon, no, not for people that followed you in there with Think It Over, which I did in the end, but Avilius was a better result.
God bless him.
Moving on, Aegon, I think, can definitely bounce back on a heavy track. Not particularly well in with 53 kilos, given Moanga gets in with 49.5. Moanga I'll probably have something on as well. Just I think back to 1600 isn't a big knock here. He's going to be the one really closing out wide if they overdo it. I could have something on him. The two I'm actually going to have something on at huge prices are the Annabelle Nation pair, number 5 Olmedo and number 8 Zaki. Olmedo had a couple of runs here in Australia. First up, he ran, I think it was in the Cantala behind another one you tipped that day, Yulong Prince. And I thought he ran quite well there. Comes here first up off 3 trials, which have just been a bit average. But just thought it interesting that Tommy Berry's riding here. The overseas form, and I thought the Cantala run was quite good. So I just thought he's probably going to start 300 to 1 on Betfair. He's already 126. I thought a couple of dollars on him wouldn't go astray. And the same with Zaki. He's got some strong overseas form. Draws wide, not sure how that'll go. But again, he's going to start easily in triple figures, I would have thought. So again, a couple of dollars there. And I could even sickeningly make a case for Funstar.
Oh, God.
Around second to Probabile.
Please.
Epsom. Yeah, I could make a case for her. I thought she wasn't going particularly well on the George Rider. She drops a lot in weight here. And you just know Waller's the only runner in the race, and he's won so many of these races. Just wouldn't surprise me to see her show up at her best, and yeah, kind of just annoy punters again with Funstar getting the job done. So I could have something on her as well.
All right, that'll wrap us up for this week. Short and sharp. We've got things to do over here in Launceston, so we'll keep it nice and short and sweet this week. You can find all of our content for tomorrow up on racingbet.com.au, and we'll be back to preview day 2 of the championships next week. See you later.